Hey guys! In this video, we're gonna create a simple book history API application using Laravel 8 CRUD operation. First of all, we need to design database. So let's take a look at our tables that I've designed before. As you see, we have 4 tables: publishers, books, authors, and the book authors table. And there is a one-to-many relationship between the publishers table and the books table, which means every book is published just by one publisher, but every publisher can publish multiple books. So we should save publisher ID as a foreign key in the books table. And also we have a many-to-many relationship between the authors table and the books table. That means every book belongs to one or multiple authors, and every author has written multiple books. In this situation, we will use another table as a pivot table to store our relationships. In this course, we will have book authors table as a pivot table, and we should save our book ID and author ID as a foreign key in it. Okay, now let's dive into the code. After creating the Laravel project, we need to create the tables. You can use this command to create a new table. PHP artisan make migration, create, underline your table name and underline table. If you are using Docker like me, you can use this command. You should go to the Docker directory, docker compose execute app PHP artisan make migration and your table name. First of all, we need to create the publishers table because it's completely independent. You can have a different structure of mine, but here is the structure of the publishers table. I have an ID as a primary key, an identifier that is unique, and the first name and the last name of the publisher. After that, I've created the books table that has this structure. I have an ID, I have a ISBN column which is unique, the name of the book, the year of the publish, and the counts of the pages. And also I have a publisher ID as a foreign key which is related to the publishers table. I don't need to mention the primary key because it's ID by default, but if you are using another name for your primary key, you can mention your primary key name in this section. After creating the publishers table and the books table, I need to create the authors table, which is same as publishers table. I have an ID, an identifier, first name and last name of the author. As I mentioned in the database design section, we should have a table as a pivot table, which is book authors in this course. We need to store many-to-many relationship data, and here is the book ID as a foreign key which is related to the books table, and also I have author ID column which is related to the author's primary key which is ID. Okay, now it's the structure of our tables, and as I said, it can be different. You can use another structure in your project. Now we can migrate the tables to the database with this command php artisan migrate. And also, if you are using Docker, you can use this command. Okay, now I want to run this command. Let's see what's happening. Nothing to migrate. Everything is up to date because I didn't change anything in this structure, and I've migrated all tables before. After creating our tables, now we need to create our models. To create a new model, you can use this command in your terminal. php artisan make model and your model name. If you are using Docker, just add docker compose execute app and php artisan make model. I don't need to run this command because I've created my own models before. I prefer to create all models and then we can add their functions. First of all, I want to talk about the publisher model. Okay, there is a list of all label columns that you can define it by the label properties. After that, you can see a function with books name that we can access to the collection of related books by accessing this property. We are using has many method to ensure that every publisher has many related books. After that, I prefer to talk about the book author models. As I said in the database designing section, we should have a pivot table to store relationships of a relationship between tables that have many-to-many relationship. So make sure that your model extends pivot, and also make sure that you are using the correct table name with defining the table property. Okay, now let's talk about the author models. We have a property with books name in this model that uses the belongs to many method and book author model as a pivot model. And you can get the related books of the author by calling this property. Okay, now we will finish the model section with defining the properties of the book model. After adding the label columns, okay, we have a function to get related publisher. To define the inverse of has many relationship that you see in the publisher model. Yeah, here is. We are using the belongs to method. Once the relationship has been defined, we can retrieve a book's parent publisher by accessing the publisher property. To get the list of all authors, we also use a belongs to many method in the author's property. With calling this property, we can get a full list of all authors of the book. So, we finished the model section. Let's go to create controllers. Now it's time to create our controllers. If you want to create a new controller in Laravel, you can use this command php artisan make controller and the name of your controller. For example, publisher controller. Okay, in this project we have a tree controller with author controller name, book controller name, and publisher controller. And every controller will contain the following function. The index function will be used to get the list of all records. And in the store function, after validating the given request, the new element will be created with this code. And we are passing the ID to the destroy function and then detecting elements with the given ID and then deleting it. The show function is used to get the specific element by passing ID to the function, and if you can't find the specific element, you can return 404 status with the message. And also the update function is used to update the given element based on the given requests. So in this function, first we are trying to find the element. If we find this, we should update the item with the given requests. Okay? After publisher controller, we have book controller. All functions are the same as the publisher controller's function. But in the book controller's store and update function, you will see the sync method. Sync can use to synchronize either side of the belongs to many relationships. By default, it drops all the relations and just keeps those provided as the arguments. For example, in this store function, we are trying to authors from the request and then put all of the authors to pivot table by the sync function. Similarity, if you want to remove a certain entity relationship from the pivot table, you can use the detach method. As you see, we are using the detach method in the destroy function of the book controller, and you can delete all related author out the element with calling the detach method. After that, we have author controller, and all functions are the same as the books and publisher controller. And we have index function for getting the list of all authors with their books, and we are trying to store a new author after validating the request. And in this destroy function, we are trying to find the element and detach all related books and then delete the given item. If we can't find the element, we are trying to return 404 status and item not found message. In the show method, we are trying to find the item with related books and return 200 status. In the update method, we are trying to find or fail element by the given ID and update item based on the given requests. So after finishing the controller's structure, we are trying to create our routes in the routes api.php file. We will define our routes by a route API resource, because API resource sets some default routes, for example, index, show, destroy, and update. We don't need to create all of them manually. For example, if you try to see the list of your routes by calling this command artisan root list. Sorry, we have to go to the Laravel directory, and then I'm trying to get the list of all routes. Okay, for example, here is all routes related to the books. We are trying to create all these routes just by calling the API resource method, and we don't need to create them manually. Okay, we finished this course, and I hope this will help you to create many-to-many or one-to-many relationships in Laravel. Let me know if you have any question or any concern.